Leroy Davis and Bianca Thompson, couple from Kingston, Jamaica, had long dreamed of a honeymoon that would erase the mundanity of everyday life by replacing it with endless sunsets, turquoise waters, and whispered promises on warm, sandy beaches. Their lavish Caribbean wedding had been the talk of the town back home, a vibrant celebration of love, music, and the rich cultural traditions of Jamaica. Yet beneath the cheerful smiles and jubilant festivities lay a silent tension fueled by unmet expectations, financial strains, and secrets that each carried into what was meant to be their most cherished escape. Upon their arrival on Paradise Island in the Bahamas, the couple was instantly enchanted by the allure of their surroundings. They checked into the luxurious yet discreet resort known as Paradise Del Mar, which offered an idyllic blend of sophistication and natural beauty. The resort's private cabanas, the rhythmic lull of the ocean, and expertly curated candlelit dinners crafted an atmosphere seemingly perfect for romance and renewal. However, as days passed under the shimmering Caribbean sun, subtle signs of fissures in their relationship emerged. Bianca, whose captivating smile once lit up every room, began to appear increasingly withdrawn. She spent more time on secluded walks along the beach and engaged in hushed conversations with a mysterious local man named Darius, a suave and enigmatic figure whose charm contrasted sharply with the predictable effusiveness of resort life. Leroy, who prided himself on his loyalty and protective nature, started noticing unfamiliar text messages and secretive glances exchanged between Bianca and Darius. The buoyant dream of a blissful honeymoon soon curdled into a reeling suspicion of betrayal. One humid evening, after a day filled with sunlit adventures and indulgent meals, the couple returned to their suite, a tastefully appointed space with panoramic views of the glittering sea. The tension that had been marinating all day erupted during a quiet dinner on their private balcony. Amid the gentle hum of the waves and a soft tropical breeze, Leroy confronted Bianca about the cryptic messages he had seen on her phone. Accusations were hurled back and forth, each word laced with a potent mix of hurt and resentment. In the dim light, as shadows lengthened across the room, the veneer of their once perfect romance began to crack irrevocably. Leroy's inner turmoil was multifaceted. Apart from the sting of infidelity, a gnawing financial pressure had long plagued him. Despite outward appearances of success, the couple's finances were in disarray, a detail that Bianca had attempted to keep hidden. Unspoken resentments over mounting debts and the fear of losing their future stability had simmered in the background of their life together. Now, the revelation of Bianca's clandestine meetings with Darius not only confirmed his worst fears about personal betrayal, but also reignited long-buried anxieties about their precarious financial future. That fateful night, in the secluded, softly lit corridor near the resort's hidden courtyard, the simmering conflagration erupted into irreversible violence. In a moment of uncontrolled rage, Leroy seized Bianca in a desperate bid to halt the transgression he could no longer endure. What began as a bitter confrontation in a private lounge rapidly escalated. Harsh words gave way to physical blows in the secrecy of the resort's intimate spaces. The sound of a shattered vase, the muffled cry for mercy, and then an ominous, sickening silence were all that remained as Bianca collapsed onto a mosaic-tiled floor, her life fading away as the cool Bahamian night bore witness. The resort staff, alerted by the sudden clamor and the unmistakable scent of blood mingled with the salty air, rushed to the scene with alarm. Panic replaced the earlier calm, and within minutes, Paradise Del Mar was overrun by a cluster of worried employees and guests. The resort's private security, trained to handle disturbances discreetly, immediately isolated the area and contacted the Royal Bahamas Police Force, RBPF. The local officers, aware of the sensitivity required when dealing with high-profile cases involving international visitors, arrived swiftly, their presence eliciting murmurs of shock from both tourists and staff alike. Detective Malik Sinclair, a seasoned investigator known for his methodical approach and empathetic handling of complex cases, took charge of the gruesome aftermath. The crime scene, though seemingly arranged as though the fatal incident might have been an accidental fall or a robbery gone awry, bore stark inconsistency. Carefully collected forensic evidence, a stray fingerprint on shattered glass, the peculiar angle of blood spatter, and a fragment of a gold watch engraved with initials suggested a scenario far more sinister than mere misfortune. Resort surveillance cameras had captured fleeting images of a heated dispute in the corridors minutes before the murder, and when combined with digital traces found on Bianca's and Leroy's phones, the story of betrayal began to take on a grim clarity. In the days that followed, Detective Sinclair's investigation unearthed the complex layers of personal despair and deception that had culminated in that violent moment. Interviews with resort staff revealed that Bianca had been increasingly reserved during her stay and had been spotted in secretive rendezvous with Darius. Meanwhile, Leroy's accounts grew increasingly contradictory. Attempts to claim that the fatal altercation was a regrettable accident fell apart under the scrutiny of forensic analysis. The discovery of hidden financial documents, accessible only to Leroy, along with the sudden initiation of life insurance procedures, painted a chilling picture of premeditation mingled with raw passion. During interrogations, as the tropical night deepened, Leroy's resolute facade finally crumbled. His initial denials gave way to fragmented admissions under the relentless questioning of Detective Sinclair. It became evident that the catalyst for the murder had not merely been an isolated affair, but a culmination of years of unspoken grievances, economic pressures, and the corrosive effects of jealousy. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage, forensic traces, and digital message logs left little doubt about the chain of events. In a final moment of anguished clarity, Leroy muttered admissions that betrayed his deep-seated desperation, a confession that echoed with the bitter irony of love and loss. The subsequent trial at the Nassau High Court captured international attention. Media outlets, from across the Caribbean and beyond, flocked to cover every detail of the case, eager to document the dramatic unraveling of a family's private tragedies. Testimonies from coerced resort employees, forensic experts, and even representatives from the RBPF contributed to a narrative that was as much about the collapse of a once promising union as it was about the failings of a system meant to protect vulnerable lives. Leroy's defense, which initially attempted to frame the incident as a tragic accident spurred by momentary lapses in judgment, soon crumbled in the face of incontrovertible evidence that pointed to a cold, calculated act of retribution. The trial not only served to bring Leroy to justice, but also ignited a broader conversation about the vulnerabilities inherent in seemingly idyllic tourist havens. The Bahamas, renowned for its pristine beaches and impeccable hospitality, found itself grappling with the consequences of a crime that shattered public perceptions of safety. In the wake of these revelations, resort operators across the islands began to reassess their security protocol. Enhanced surveillance measures, additional staff training to recognize signs of domestic strife, and tighter coordination with local law enforcement were instituted, all in an effort to prevent future tragedy. Beyond the legal proceedings, the case left scars on the communities involved. Bianca's family, devastated by her untimely death, spoke in tearful interviews about the kind of woman she had been: a passionate, kind soul caught in the complex interplay of love, betrayal, and unmet expectations. Friends recalled how Bianca had long hoped to salvage the slow-fading embers of her marriage, even when the weight of financial pressures and loneliness threatened to consume her entirely. A candlelight vigil held on a quiet stretch of Nassau Beach became a poignant tribute to her memory, a symbolic act of remembrance against the backdrop of a paradise that had witnessed too much pain. Detective Sinclair, reflecting on the case in a rare private moment, expressed a measured sorrow. He noted that the blurred lines between love, loyalty, and violence were not unique to this incident, but were magnified in the extreme isolation and heightened emotions found during a honeymoon. For him, the case served as a stark reminder that even in the most beautiful settings, human frailties can lead to catastrophic decisions. His detailed investigation laid bare not only the sequence of events, but also a broader commentary on the modern pressures that weigh on intimate relationships. In the academic and social spheres, the case spurred discussions about the responsibilities of couples embarking on transformative journeys such as honeymoons. Experts urged that the extravagance of a tropical escape should not overshadow the importance of addressing long-standing emotional wounds. Counseling services, previously considered secondary to physical safety measures, were highlighted as a crucial support system for couples facing similar pressures. Conferences and symposiums on domestic violence and relationship health soon began citing the case as a somber example of what can happen when unresolved issues remain unchecked. For many in the local Bahamian community, the case resonated beyond the courtroom. It underscored the vulnerabilities inherent in a system that relied heavily on the trust placed by tourists in luxurious yet ultimately human-run establishments. The collaborative efforts between the RBPF, resort management, and even foreign embassies highlighted the multifaceted nature of addressing crimes that occur in a globalized travel environment. In subsequent interviews, officials stressed that every incident, no matter how isolated, contributed to a growing body of knowledge that would improve safety protocols for the benefit of all visitors. Ultimately, the tale of betrayal and bloodshed on Paradise Island embodies a cautionary parable about the dangers of hidden truths and the devastating consequences of unresolved anger. Leroy Davis's once bright dreams for a future filled with hope and prosperity were forever marred by a single irreversible act of violence. As the trial concluded with a verdict that resonated across continents, the legacy of that fateful honeymoon became an indelible mark, a warning etched into the collective memory of all who believed that Paradise was immune to human tragedy. In the years following the incident, scholars, law enforcement professionals, and relationship experts continued to reference the case in their studies and reforms. Its complexities served as a grim reminder that Paradise, however alluring, is not exempt from the darker undercurrents of jealousy, betrayal, and financial desperation. While the sun still shines over the Bahamas and tourists continue to dream of romantic escapes on these storied shores, the memory of a once promising love story turned fatal remains a solemn testament to the fragility of trust and the perilous consequences when that trust is irrevocably broken. Turquoise waters stretch endlessly beneath a crimson sunset. Palm trees sway to the rhythm of gentle ocean breeze. White sand beaches embrace the shoreline of Paradise Island, Bahamas, a place where dreams materialize, where love flourishes under tropical skies, where promises of forever echo with each breaking wave. For Leroy Davis and Bianca Thompson, this postcard perfection represented everything their relationship aspired to be. Their honeymoon suite at Paradise Del Mar Resort offered panoramic ocean views, private candlelit dinners, and the intoxicating promise of new beginnings. But what transforms a dream honeymoon into a blood-soaked nightmare? Have you ever wondered how quickly paradise can become prison? How the same stunning isolation that makes a romantic getaway so appealing can suddenly feel like a trap when trust shatters? How the person sleeping beside you, the one who vowed to cherish you forever, could become your greatest threat. The morning staff at Paradise Del Mar never expected to find a trail of crimson staining their pristine ivory tiles. They never anticipated discovering a bride alone, motionless, her wedding ring still glistening on her finger as life slipped away. They never imagined the groom, his eyes vacant, his hands trembling, struggling to explain what happened in their secluded beachfront cabana. What drives someone to commit the unthinkable in a place dedicated to love? Was it a moment of blind rage, or something calculated brewing long before champagne toasts and ceremonial cake cutting? Before we continue this haunting journey through betrayal, financial deception, and fatal jealousy, take a moment to subscribe to Behind Closed Doors and activate notifications. Your support allows us to continue bringing these powerful stories, not merely to shock, but to illuminate the warning signs that might save lives. Tonight, we expose how paradise became the perfect backdrop for murder, how honeymoon photographs transformed into evidence, and how a mysterious third person changed everything. This is not simply a tale of passion gone wrong. It is a masterclass in recognizing when romance conceals something much more dangerous. In the vibrant heart of Kingston, Jamaica, Leroy Davis and Bianca Thompson embodied what many called the ideal partnership. Leroy, with his charismatic smile and entrepreneurial ambition, had built a modest import business that garnered respect throughout the community. Bianca, equally compelling with her warm eyes and sharp intellect, managed a boutique marketing agency that helped local businesses flourish in the competitive island economy. Their courtship captivated friends and family, weekend excursions to Montego Bay, elaborate surprise parties, and public declarations of devotion that flooded social media feeds. When Leroy proposed during a community festival, dropping to one knee as fireflies illuminated the evening sky, collective sighs rippled through the crowd. Their love appeared absolute, unquestionable, and deserving of celebration. They complemented each other perfectly, recalled Marissa, Bianca's childhood friend. He provided stability. She brought creativity. Together, they seemed unstoppable. Their wedding day unfolded as a cultural celebration that blended traditional Jamaican customs with contemporary elegance. 200 guests gathered at a historical plantation house, converted to an event venue. Reggae melodies transitioned into classical arrangements as Bianca glided down the aisle. Authentic jerk chicken served alongside gourmet international cuisine. Speeches overflowed with predictions of enduring happiness. Yet beneath this meticulously choreographed display of affection, hairline fractures had already formed in their foundation. Looking back, I noticed how Bianca tensed whenever financial discussions arose. Another friend observed. Leroy would make grand gestures, expensive jewelry, luxury restaurant reservations. Then Bianca would subtly wince, though she masked it quickly with appreciation. Their separate bank accounts raised few eyebrows initially. Many modern couples maintain financial independence. However, Leroy increasingly pressured Bianca to merge their resources, citing commitment and transparency. What guests perceived as loving touches, his hand resting on her shoulder, guiding her through rooms, occasionally reflected control rather than affection. Beneath designer clothing and confident smiles, mounting credit card statements accumulated. The wedding alone cost more than $70,000, an amount that stretched both families beyond comfortable limits. The luxurious honeymoon package to the Bahamas represented another $20,000 charged to accounts already approaching their maximum limits. Everyone expected perfection from them, explained Bianca's cousin. Perhaps maintaining appearances became more important than addressing reality. While champagne flowed freely at their reception, private conversations between the couple grew increasingly strained. Bianca questioned expenditures. Leroy deflected with promises of future success. She suggested modest honeymoon alternatives. He insisted nothing less than Paradise Del Mar befitted their status. As they departed for Nassau, waving to cheering loved ones, their smiles never wavered. The perfect couple embarked on their perfect honeymoon, each carrying secrets heavier than their matching designer luggage. The seaplane descended toward Paradise Island, offering Leroy and Bianca their first glimpse of Paradise Del Mar, an exclusive sanctuary of luxury nestled between pristine beaches and lush tropical gardens. Whitewashed villas dotted the shoreline, their terraces extending over crystalline waters that shifted between azure and emerald with each passing cloud. "Welcome to your heavenly escape," the resort manager greeted, presenting fresh coconut drinks garnished with orchid blossoms. "Your private cabana awaits, the Hibiscus Suite, our most romantic accommodation." A golf cart whisked them along winding paths, bordered by fragrant frangipani and birds of paradise. Tropical birds called from flowering trees while attentive staff bowed subtly as they passed. The resort operated as a well-orchestrated fantasy, where every need was anticipated before being expressed. Their cabana exceeded even the glossy brochure promises. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed uninterrupted ocean views. A private infinity pool merged visually with the Caribbean horizon. Inside, rose petals formed heart patterns across Egyptian cotton sheets, while champagne chilled beside tropical fruit arrangements. "This is perfect," Bianca whispered, momentarily forgetting their financial concerns, as she stepped onto their private deck. For the first time in months, tension melted from her shoulders. Leroy watched her transformation with satisfaction. "Only the best for my queen," he murmured, pulling her close. 7 days to reconnect without distraction. Their first days unfolded in sun-drenched bliss. Mornings spent kayaking through hidden coves, afternoons lounging on pristine beaches, where attendants appeared with cold towels and fresh beverages, evenings devoted to exquisite 5-course meals under star-filled skies. "I feel us finding each other again," Bianca confessed on their third night, fingers intertwined with his across a candlelit table. Nearby, waves provided gentle percussion to a musician playing steel drum. Leroy nodded, raising his glass, "To new beginnings and leaving problems behind." But paradise has a way of revealing what we try to hide. The isolation that initially felt liberating slowly transformed the resort into an elegant cage. Without daily distractions, unspoken resentments surfaced. The endless hours together magnified subtle irritations. Financial worries, temporarily suspended, gradually reasserted themselves with each signature on mounting room charges. By their fourth morning, despite outward appearances of honeymoon happiness, a current of unease flowed beneath their interactions, a silent acknowledgement that changing locations could not repair fundamental fractures in their foundation. On the fifth morning of their stay, Bianca rose early, leaving Leroy asleep amid tangled sheets. Just going for a sunrise walk, she scribbled on resort stationery. These solitary excursions gradually extended from 30 minutes to 2 hours, her explanations increasingly vague upon return. During one such absence, Leroy noticed her phone illuminating with messages. The name Darius appeared repeatedly, a name she had never mentioned. The preview revealed words like meet and private. His thumb hovered over the screen, contemplating invasion of privacy versus his growing unease. Darius Alvarez worked as the resort's exclusive excursion coordinator, tall, confidently casual, with an encyclopedic knowledge of Bahamian history and hidden island treasures. His melodious accent and practiced charm captivated female guests, a talent that substantially increased his commission-based income. Many women appreciate how I make them feel special, Darius later explained to investigators. Mrs. Thompson seemed particularly responsive to attention. Leroy first encountered Darius during a beachside lunch, spotting him engaged in animated conversation with Bianca at the shoreline. Her laughter, genuine, unreserved, traveled across the sand. Leroy observed how she touched her hair repeatedly, leaned forward attentively, behaviors he recognized from their own courtship days. "Have you met our excursion coordinator?" Bianca asked, too brightly when returning to their table. "He knows fascinating places tourists never discover." At dinner that evening, Leroy broached the subject carefully. "You seemed quite comfortable with that guide today." Bianca maintained her composure. "Darius, he recommends authentic experiences beyond typical tourist attractions. I booked us a private tour tomorrow." "Interesting you made plans without discussing it first," Leroy remarked, his fork suspended midair. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Since when do I need permission for vacation activities? Have you noticed how quickly defensive responses emerge when innocent questions touch sensitive truths? Pay attention to this critical warning sign in your own relationships. When simple inquiries trigger disproportionate reactions, something significant often hides beneath the surface. Comment below about relationship red flags you have encountered. Your insights might help others recognize danger before tragedy strikes." As tensions mounted, Bianca's phone became a battleground. She guarded it vigilantly, password changed, screen angled away from Leroy's view. Meanwhile, Leroy began covertly monitoring her movements, noting timestamps of departures and arrivals, comparing them against explanations offered. During one beach excursion, Bianca left her daybag momentarily unattended. Leroy discovered brochures for exclusive Bahamian real estate properties, each featuring handwritten notes comparing investment potential. More disturbing was a partially completed international banking form, bearing only her name, contradicting their agreement to consult each other on financial decisions. "Planning an investment without telling me," he confronted her that afternoon. Her expression shifted from shock to defiance. "Perhaps I need security you cannot provide." The paradise they had arrived at together was rapidly becoming two separate islands of isolation, distrust deepening with each crashing wave. That evening, while Bianca showered, Leroy succumbed to mounting suspicion. Her carelessly discarded phone revealed dozens of messages between her and Darius, exchanges that transcended professional tour arrangements. The conversation history painted an intimate portrait: shared meals during Leroy's afternoon naps, private boat excursions to secluded cays, discussions about future possibilities once she handled her current situation. "Meet me at our spot tomorrow," read the most recent message. "I have exciting news about the property." Leroy's hands trembled as he placed the phone exactly as he had found it. His mind raced through calculations. Their depleted savings, maxed credit cards, loans from family members, all sacrificed for a marriage apparently crumbling before it truly began. The following day unfolded as an elaborate performance. They participated in couples massage, laughing too loudly during beachfront volleyball, posing for photographs with frozen smiles. Their fellow honeymooners commented on their perfect chemistry, oblivious to the emotional chasm widening between them. "You two make marriage look effortless," remarked an elderly couple celebrating their 50th anniversary. Bianca squeezed Leroy's hand. "Appearances mislead sometimes," For their sixth evening, Leroy arranged a private dinner on their balcony, white tablecloth, personal chef, string quartet, playing softly from the gardens below. Candles illuminated Bianca's features as she sipped champagne, her wedding ring catching golden light with each movement. "This must have cost a fortune," she commented, studying the elaborate seafood display. "No expense spared for my wife," Leroy replied, voice tight despite attempted warmth. "Nothing matters more than celebrating our union." The chef departed after serving dessert, leaving them alone with the night breeze and mounting tension. "I examined our credit card statement today," Leroy began carefully, refilling her champagne. "Found unusual charges at a jewelry store yesterday afternoon." Bianca stiffened. "I bought myself a small memento during your supposed sailing lesson." He placed his glass down with deliberate control. "Interesting, since the marina confirmed no lessons were scheduled. You checked up on me," her voice elevated slightly, "just as you have apparently checked into offshore banking options." He produced the brochure from his pocket. "Planning financial arrangements without my knowledge?" Color drained from Bianca's face before indignation replaced shock. "Perhaps I need protection you refuse to understand." "Protection? Or preparing to leave with resort staff who charm vulnerable tourists?" "Darius understands financial security better than—" "So you admit your meetings with him?" Their voices escalated against the percussion of distant waves. Accusations volleyed across candlelight, her secret financial preparations, his controlling behaviors, mutual deceptions compounding over months. "Our entire financial foundation teeters on collapse." Leroy finally exploded. "Creditors call daily while you explore property investments with a stranger." "Because you refuse reality," Bianca countered. "Your business hemorrhages money while you maintain illusions of success." The revelation hung between them, each aware of separate truths, kept hidden. Leroy's import business faced imminent bankruptcy. Bianca had inherited money she never disclosed. Their financial lives had become elaborate constructions of half-truths and omissions. "Tomorrow morning," Bianca declared, gathering her composure, "I meet with Darius to finalize investment plans, securing our future with or without your approval." Leroy's expression hardened into something unfamiliar. "No," he stated with frightening quietude, "you will not." The midnight hours at Paradise Del Mar embraced a deceiving tranquility. Most guests had retreated to their accommodations, leaving only the persistent rhythm of waves against shoreline and occasional laughter from the 24-hour beach bar. Security cameras would later show Bianca returning to their cabana at 11:15, her expression troubled but resolute. Inside, Leroy waited, having consumed most of a whiskey bottle during her absence. The romantic dinner setting remained partially intact: wilted rose petals, hardened candle wax, half-empty champagne glasses, creating a grotesque monument to their earlier confrontation. "Where were you?" he demanded, as she entered. Bianca straightened her shoulders. "Finalizing arrangements. My inheritance provides enough to secure property here. Darius connected me with legitimate investment opportunities." "Your inheritance?" Leroy stood unsteadily. "You concealed family money while watching me struggle, because you would have depleted it maintaining appearances rather than building actual security." She moved toward the closet, pulling out her suitcase. "I need space to reconsider everything." The resort's night manager later reported hearing elevated voices from Hibiscus Suite, though such occurrences during honeymoons were unfortunately common enough to avoid immediate intervention. "You humiliated me," Leroy followed her, voice lowering dangerously, "conspiring with that man while wearing my ring." "This marriage was a mistake," she responded, folding clothes methodically. "We built everything on illusions neither of us could maintain." What happened next occurred in horrifying sequence. Leroy grabbed her shoulders, demanding explanation. Bianca broke free, reaching for her phone. He knocked it from her hand, sending it crashing into a decorative vase that shattered against marble flooring. As she lunged for the bathroom, seeking separation, he pursued with catastrophic determination. Neighbors in adjacent cabanas reported a brief, terrible scream followed by resounding silence. One guest described it as the sound of life departing, unmistakable once you have heard it. At 4:27 in the morning, Maria Cortez, part of the overnight housekeeping staff, noticed water seeping beneath the Hibiscus Suite door into the exterior walkway. Following protocol for potential plumbing emergencies, She knocked repeatedly before using her master key. The scene awaiting her defied comprehension. Water overflowed from the bathroom, diluting crimson streams across pristine white tiles. Bianca lay motionless beside the sunken tub, her head positioned at an impossible angle. Nearby, their wedding photograph had been placed facing downward in the expanding puddle. Leroy sat on the bed's edge, staring vacantly at his trembling hands. "She slipped," he mumbled, as Maria backed away in horror. The floor was wet, an accident. Emergency response arrived within minutes, but medical intervention proved futile. Bianca Thompson Davis was pronounced deceased at 5:11 in the morning, 6 days into what should have been a 14-day honeymoon. Initial evidence appeared potentially consistent, with an accidental fall, wet flooring, alcohol consumption, possible night disorientation. However, one critical detail altered everything: defensive bruising on Bianca's wrists and forearms, in patterns inconsistent with a single impact. Friends, relationships do not deteriorate instantly. They erode through ignored warning signs and dismissed concerns. Notice when financial transparency disappears. Recognize when someone isolates you from others. Acknowledge when simple disagreements trigger disproportionate anger. These signals deserve attention before irreversible damage occurs. Share your thoughts below about relationship warning signs you wish you had recognized sooner. The paramedics departing Paradise Del Mar that morning carried more than Bianca's body. They transported the devastating consequences of secrets, jealousy, and financial deception, finally erupting beyond containment. Detective Malik Sinclair arrived at Paradise Del Mar as morning light spilled across the horizon. His reputation within the Royal Bahamas police force stemmed from methodical precision rather than dramatic intuition. A former forensic scientist turned homicide investigator, Sinclair approached each case as a mathematical equation requiring careful solution. "Death scenes tell stories through evidence," he explained to his team assembling outside Hibiscus Suite. "Our job is to listen without preconceptions." His first observation challenged Leroy's accident narrative. Water from the overflowing tub had indeed created slippery conditions, but Bianca's injuries indicated multiple impact points rather than a single fall. Bruise patterns on her wrists suggested defensive positioning. Most telling was a circular bruise at the base of her skull, consistent with forceful impact against the tub's edge. The bathroom contained too many contradictions, Sinclair noted in his report. Water deliberately left running, towels neatly folded despite apparent emergency, blood spatter patterns inconsistent with accidental trauma. Resort security cameras yielded crucial timeline evidence. Footage showed Bianca returning at 11:15 as claimed. However, additional clips captured Leroy leaving their cabana at 1:23, contradicting his statement about remaining inside all night. He reappeared 17 minutes later, appearing agitated, hands repeatedly running through his hair. "Why did you tell me you never left the room?" Sinclair questioned during their second interview. Leroy's confidence faltered. "I might have stepped out briefly for air." The night blurs together. Digital evidence provided another breakthrough. Forensic examination of Bianca's phone recovered deleted messages, revealing the true nature of her relationship with Darius. Not romantic as Leroy suspected, but financial. Darius served as intermediary between Bianca and local investment advisors, specializing in helping women establish independent financial security. "Many clients come to me when relationships turn controlling," Darius confirmed. Mrs. Thompson feared her husband's spending habits endangered their future. The investigation uncovered Leroy's extensive gambling debts, concealed from everyone in Jamaica. 3 separate online gambling platforms showed combined losses exceeding $200,000, explaining his desperate need to access Bianca's inheritance. Most damaging was the discovery of life insurance documentation in Leroy's luggage. A policy for $1 million on Bianca had been activated just 2 weeks before their wedding, with Leroy as sole beneficiary. The premium payment receipt showed the date, exactly 1 day after he discovered her substantial inheritance. "Financial motivations create powerful incentives," Sinclair explained to his team. "When combined with perceived betrayal, they become particularly dangerous." As questioning intensified, Leroy's carefully constructed narrative collapsed under scrutiny. His timeline contained unexplainable gaps. His description of Bianca's fall contradicted physical evidence. His claimed ignorance about her inheritance dissolved when investigators discovered his browser history showing extensive research on inheritance laws. Accidents do not require elaborate cover-ups, Sinclair observed, as he presented the growing evidence collection. Only deliberate acts demand such careful manipulation of scenes. With each passing hour, the image of a tragic honeymoon accident transformed into something far more calculated, a desperate man's attempt to solve financial problems through the ultimate exploitation of marriage vows. On the third day of investigation, Detective Sinclair received a call from Kingston Police. A thorough search of the couple's home had yielded a concealed safe behind their bedroom dresser, accessible only with Leroy's fingerprint. The contents paint a disturbing financial portrait, explained Kingston Detective Morris. Bank statements show systematic withdrawal of business funds. Tax documents reveal years of fraudulent reporting. Most concerning are multiple insurance policies on Bianca's life. The safe contained 3 separate life insurance documents, totaling $2 million, each listing Leroy as sole beneficiary. Application dates corresponded precisely with timeline milestones: their engagement, wedding planning commencement, and honeymoon booking. Each policy required larger premiums due to rushed processing requests. He created financial protection that activated with her death, Sinclair concluded, reviewing the documentation. The timing suggests calculated preparation rather than routine planning. Meanwhile, forensic accountants reconstructed Bianca's financial activities. Her inheritance, approximately $800,000 from her maternal grandmother, had remained untouched in separate accounts. Evidence indicated she had consulted financial advisors about protecting these assets through offshore trusts, not for infidelity purposes, but as safeguards against Leroy's mounting debts. Her actions were defensive, not deceptive, noted financial investigator Rebecca Chen. Text messages show she planned confronting him about gambling losses. Once they returned home, she hoped professional financial counseling might save their marriage. The revelation that transformed the entire investigation came from an unexpected source. Paradise Del Mar's booking records showed Leroy had originally reserved their honeymoon suite for 21 days, but changed to a 14-day stay, specifically after discovering Bianca's inheritance. More critically, he had inquired about private boat charters scheduled for day 7, the day after Bianca's death, with instructions for discreet departure arrangements. He never intended completing their honeymoon together, Sinclair announced during the investigation briefing. His escape plan activated immediately following her planned death. Phone records further revealed calls to an attorney specializing in expedited probate processing, made 3 days before their wedding. Notes in Leroy's personal journal, recovered from his laptop, contained chilling calculations estimating financial freedom timeline following asset consolidation, his euphemism for accessing Bianca's inheritance through her death. What initially appeared as passion-fueled violence had transformed into something far more deliberate, a methodical financial strategy with murder as its central mechanism. On the 7th day of investigation, Detective Sinclair implemented a strategic approach to the final interrogation. Rather than confronting Leroy with accusations, he methodically presented evidence piece by piece, creating an inescapable narrative of premeditation. Your business faced bankruptcy proceedings next month, Sinclair began, sliding documents across the table. Financial records show gambling losses totaling $230,000 across multiple platforms. Leroy maintained composed denial until Sinclair revealed the life insurance policies discovered in Kingston. Interesting timing, Sinclair observed. The first policy initiated the day after you learned about her inheritance. The premium payments coincide exactly with your largest gambling losses. The interrogation room camera captured the precise moment Leroy's carefully constructed facade crumbled. His shoulders collapsed inward, as though physically compressed by accumulated evidence. She promised we would build everything together, he whispered after prolonged silence. Then I discovered she had hidden wealth while watching me drown in debt. His confession emerged, not as an emotional outburst, but as calculated justification. He described meticulous planning spanning months, researching insurance policies, creating financial contingencies, selecting the perfect location where wealthy tourists occasionally experienced tragic accidents. The honeymoon location offered ideal conditions, Leroy admitted. Isolated cabanas, limited overnight staff, expectation of privacy for newlyweds. The court proceedings at Nassau Central Courthouse drew international media attention. Journalists from Jamaica, the Bahamas, United States, and United Kingdom filled every available seat. The prosecution presented 8 days of testimony, forensic experts, financial analysts, digital communication specialists, and resort employees constructing an unassailable case. This represents the most calculated case of intimate partner homicide I have encountered, testified forensic psychologist Dr. Eleanor Matthews. The defendant weaponized marriage itself as the mechanism for financial gain. Throughout proceedings, Bianca's family occupied front row seats, their quiet dignity contrasting sharply with the clinical dissection of her final moments. Her mother addressed the court during victim impact statements, describing not only their personal loss, but the broader betrayal. He destroyed not just her life, but our fundamental trust in human connection, she stated. How many other relationships contain such carefully hidden malice? After deliberating merely 4 hours, the jury returned with unanimous guilty verdicts on charges of first-degree murder, financial fraud, and insurance deception. The judge imposed the maximum sentence, life imprisonment without possibility of parole. "This court cannot restore what was taken," stated Chief Justice Montgomery during sentencing. "But we can ensure such calculated exploitation of marriage vows receives appropriate consequences." The ripple effects of Bianca's murder extended far beyond courthouse walls. In Kingston, her marketing agency clients established a foundation providing financial literacy education for women in vulnerable relationships. Annual scholarships in her name supported young entrepreneurs, continuing the legacy of her business acumen. For Bianca's family, grief intertwined with advocacy, her parents established a relationship violence awareness program, focusing specifically on financial control patterns. Their presentations at universities across the Caribbean highlighted how economic manipulation often precedes physical violence. Financial secrecy between partners creates dangerous power imbalances, explained Bianca's mother during a televised interview. "We teach young women to maintain financial independence within committed relationships." Paradise Del Mar implemented comprehensive security protocols. Following the tragedy, overnight staff doubled in size. Regular welfare checks became standard procedure for guests showing concerning behavior patterns. Management partnered with domestic violence experts to train employees in recognizing warning signs of relationship distress. The broader tourism industry throughout the Bahamas faced difficult questions about balancing privacy with guest safety. Hotel associations collaborated with law enforcement to establish intervention guidelines when staff observed potentially dangerous situations developing between couples. Relationship experts identified key lessons from the case study. Dr. Miranda Jeffries, renowned psychologist specializing in intimate partner violence, emphasized how financial deception frequently serves as gateway behavior to more dangerous control tactics. Healthy relationships require complete financial transparency, she advised. When one partner conceals monetary decisions or pressures the other about accounts, this represents a critical warning sign requiring immediate attention. Additional relationship warning signals highlighted by experts included isolation tactics, monitoring behaviors, explosive anger episodes, and rapidly advancing commitment timelines designed to create dependency. The case permanently changed how honeymoon resorts approach guest safety throughout the Caribbean, balancing romantic privacy with vigilant protection protocols. Before concluding tonight's episode of Behind Closed Doors, remember that awareness saves lives. Subscribe now for weekly explorations of cases containing vital safety lessons. Enable notifications to never miss potentially life-saving information. Most importantly, share this video with someone who might benefit from recognizing these crucial warning signs. Knowledge remains our strongest defense against relationship violence. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay informed, and remember, true love never requires surrender of your safety or financial autonomy.